Hello everyone and welcome back to the Podcasters Podcast. My name's Louie and today we are talking about everything launch related. So you've spent weeks, maybe months recording your podcast. You've put time, sweat, blood, tears into it, and now it's finally ready to release into the world. What on earth do you do, and will anyone even listen? In today's episode, we're going to explore what you do before launch, during launch, and after launch to make sure that you get the most traction and momentum as possible. Okay, so everyone that starts a podcast obviously wants it to do well. A metric that we use in the agency is the charts, both Apple and Spotify charts, and we always shoot for the top, obviously. To get a number one podcast when you launch is the goal for most podcasters, but how do you do that? Obviously, getting a big launch is all about the setup. So you want people with their eyes and ears on your show before it goes live so that you get the most amount of people on day one listening to your show. So it all begins at the pre-launch. You're obviously making the podcast, creating a whole bank of episodes. And one of the main things we get our clients to do is launch with a number of episodes on day one. So we average around maybe 3-4 episodes, depending on however many they have in the bank. Now, the reason that we do this is because when you launch, you want a good foundation of episodes. So when people join and they see and they watch your first episode, they can then go on to another one and then another one and then another one. And they get locked into your world and they keep consuming your content. Launching with a bank of content obviously shows that you are committed from the get-go, and it gives people the opportunity to get their views up, add to the watch time. So if they consume all of those episodes and all of the clips and everything like that, you can get your stats up significantly from the get-go. Always remember that your first episodes are going to be your worst episodes. There's a lot of build-up when you start a podcast. You'll be nervous, you'll lack confidence, you'll listen back to your recordings and you'll think that they're the worst things ever. So it's really important to remember that these 4 episodes will be the worst ones that you ever released. You'll look back on them in months' time, years' time, and you will have grown significantly. So don't worry about these episodes. They're just to give people an impression of who you are. And obviously, if you're passionate about it and you know your subject and you give it some energy, people will be able to see that and they'll support you on your journey. So, you want to start a podcast, but you don't know how. First of all, like and subscribe and have a look around the channel. There's lots of useful videos to help you on your way to starting, scaling, and thriving in your podcast career. Also, did you know that we run a 3-day event over here in Peterborough called the Podcast Profit System? Come join us in a room of like-minded individuals, meet the progressive team, learn how we do things, and there's a free lunch thrown in as well. All right, let's get back to the video. Okay, so how else can we leverage these episodes that we've created in order to get more audience? Well, you've got social media, so think Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. I wouldn't focus on all of them at once. I would pick a few very specific ones based on your audience. Now, this is an entirely different episode altogether, but think about your audience, think about who's going to be listening, think about ages, demographics, all that kind of thing. Where is it best to put these clips and to focus your energy? Obviously, algorithm-based platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts are probably the better ones to go for, as the algorithm will spread your content out to people that aren't necessarily searching for it, or, just random people instead of your close connections or friends. So you need social posts to share. Obviously, as part of the agency and something we encourage every podcast creator to do, you need to repurpose your content. So generate short bites, moments, clips, edit them up, make them interesting, put some music underneath them, some text, all of that kind of thing to make them really engaging, and then put them out onto these platforms. The purpose of these clips before launch is to tease people into wanting to see your show. So, find some really good, interesting bits and put them out there a couple of days before to get things cooking. Another thing that we do for our clients at the agency is to create graphics. So we create little poster-like images, usually some sort of countdown that can count down the days to launch. So maybe it's 5 days before the podcast goes live, you will start to count down on your socials with these graphics to kind of build hype for the podcast. Obviously, those two things take a little bit of effort. So you might need some editing in order to make the clips, or you might need a designer to make the graphics, but the principles remain the same. If you can't, if you don't have the time or the energy or the skill to do it yourself, you can do some things to build hype before the podcast goes live. Things like doing a poll on social media. So you could ask people questions about what they might want to see, if they have any questions, things like that. Just try to generate some conversation with some connections to build hype for the show. Obviously, then, if you have any guests involved in those first few episodes, make sure that they're building the hype as well. We have a massive action plan for these guests after the episodes go live, but make sure that they know that the podcast is going live so that they can join in and start to engage their audiences as well. Another really easy thing that you can do is to share behind the scenes images, photographs, little videos that you take maybe when you're recording or in the studio. Put them up. Let people see that you're making stuff, and people will start to get involved and engage with you. So if I was launching the Podcasters Podcast, which as of this recording, this will be months after the launch that this episode goes out, but right now it hasn't launched yet. So what I might do is I might get my lovely assistant behind the camera to take a photo or a video of me in the studio with the background and the microphone and the lights and all of that stuff, and I might put it out on the social medias to get people excited for the launch. One final thing you can do, and this requires a bit more editing and a bit more skill, is maybe create like a buzz reel or a highlights reel or a trailer for your show so that you can put that out maybe a couple of days before the podcast goes live to really give the audience a sense of what is going on, what kind of conversations are happening, and the general vibe of your show. Obviously, that could be put out on YouTube or Reels or anything like that so the algorithm can start sending it out to more and more people so that you can get people excited. Okay, so we're nearing launch now. This is what happens on your launch day. Now, first of all, make sure that your launch day is a day that you are able to kind of dedicate to this launch. Some people kind of release a podcast on a day that, they're working or they've got a busy schedule. So try and clear your schedule for this day. There isn't a perfect day to launch. There isn't kind of a better day of the week. The more important thing is that you stick to that schedule and that you are consistent. So say if you know that you have maybe Wednesday mornings off or something like that, release your podcast on a Wednesday so that you've got more time to focus on it. So the podcast is going out. It's now live. It's action stations. It's time to build hype. So what on earth do you do? Well, the first thing that you should be doing is telling people that your podcast is live. All of those platforms that I mentioned before, just tell people, give out links. Maybe it's best to create a Linktree account with all of your links in one place. So Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, all of those places where you're putting content, put under one umbrella link that you can then put out onto all of your social media accounts. Obviously, the best places to put that link would be on Instagram, so create a story with a link in it, or Facebook, so send it out to your friends and your family and all of the people that are closest to you. We're trying to get a mixture of the people that are closest and these random people that will join naturally through the algorithm. So make sure to try and include everyone. If you've got something like a database of emails, maybe you own a company and you've got loads of connections with people, you need to be utilizing that. We've got a couple of clients in the agency that have things like newsletters or community groups and things like that. So make sure to utilize whatever audiences you have readily available to you. Obviously, if you're on your own and you're just starting out, the algorithm's your friend. You've got to try and massage that as best you can. Another platform that's really good for getting your message out there is forum sites like Reddit and places like that. If you have quite a niche podcast, it might be beneficial to you to find a subreddit or find a group that are really interested in what you're doing and put some links out there. Obviously, if you're going to a forum and you're trying to share your own content, make sure that you get permission from whoever's moderating it or the admin to make sure that you can do that first. But try and find your niche groups. So if I was doing a podcast about metal detecting, for example, I would go and find some really niche, really interested groups and start sending the link out there as well. Obviously, a really powerful tool when all of this is involved is word of mouth. So if you find the right groups and they are passionate about it, they will start to spread it amongst themselves. So make sure to tell people in the real world to listen to your show. If at any point you are in front of people or you go and visit someone or whatever, make sure you tell them that you've got a podcast. Yes, it might sound a little bit vain or a little bit whatever, but it's your baby, it's your podcast, and you've done it because you want people to listen to it, so don't be afraid to tell people. Worst case, they don't. And that kind of relates to the other thing, which is directly message really significant people. So your guests, for example, or anyone that is really important to you, direct message them. Maybe create a little message that you can then copy and paste and send that to everyone that you know, just on WhatsApp, on text, whatever, just fire it off. All right, so within the podcast itself, there should be some call to actions to kind of get people to like, share, follow. If you don't know how to structure a call to action, do look back at my previous episode about how to structure a call to action. Obviously, in there, you are getting people to share your show, like, subscribe, all of that. That will do two things. That will feed the algorithm, but also it should get people to directly share it with people that they know. So just make sure that before you launch, that there is some sort of call to action in there. If not, add it to the show notes before it goes out live. Okay, that might seem like quite a lot. So if you're struggling, do condense that down to the things that you deem to be most important to you. Obviously, you'll have certain platforms that you're more kind of committed to. You'll have certain people that you're more committed to. So just maybe section off a couple of hours on launch day to get that done. Don't feel overwhelmed by it, but do try and do what you can to get it out there. Now, we've launched. It's out there. It's live. We've got 4 episodes out into the world, clips on social media. Your guests are sharing it, all of that stuff. It's excellent. But how do we keep people? So obviously the charts will calculate the top 1, the top 10, all of that, and it refreshes every so often. So hopefully with all of this effort and this push that you've done in the build up to launch, you will hit number 1 or get really close to it. But over time, what will happen is the charts will refresh. And if you don't keep up this momentum, you'll start to fade down into the depths of the chart, basically. So how do we keep people on the top? Well, you've got to kind of keep this up. So if you've reserved one day of the week to push your show, keep doing that, but keep sharing it with your guest. This is the main thing for growth. If you have a guest, make sure that they share it with their audiences. That's how you get fresh people involved. There will be another episode coming out on the channel about how to specifically grow your show, but I'll TLDR it for you. That is the essence. Make sure your guests share your shows. If you haven't got any guests, you need to make sure that you're kind of catapulting off of either current events or famous people, things like that, name drop stuff, kind of ride the algorithm a little bit, find trends, find keywords, and make sure that you're staying hot on what is hot. Obviously, those call to actions will still be in your episodes, so people are still liking and sharing and commenting, but one of the other things is people need to be reviewing your show, so 5-star reviews, all of that stuff. So if you're ever in a room with a bunch of people, get them all to like and rate and all of that stuff. Keep pushing all of those call to actions that you've put into your episode. And obviously a really important thing for your own confidence is to celebrate every milestone that you reach. So every 100 downloads, every 100 subscribers, when you reach 1,000, all of those key milestones that you will reach, make sure to celebrate them. Make sure to connect with your audience. Make sure to thank them. Celebrate the ride that you are going on. Some podcasts will be a bit more of a slow burn. Some podcasts will be a hit straight away. So you've really got to kind of take the win as you go. And don't be disheartened, because obviously, remember what I said at the beginning of this episode, like your first 4 episodes will be the worst ones that you ever put out. You will have learned so much in the time that you were recording those first episodes. Even when the podcast goes live, you might be recording better episodes than the ones that were going out at the beginning. So don't be disheartened, constantly evolve. And if for whatever reason, the podcast didn't get the launch that you wanted it to, you then have to sit back and consider, well, do you need to change the format? Do you need to change what you're doing? Do you need to change your energy? Do you need to change the name? Do you need to change the branding? What I would try and focus on first is obviously try and change the structure of the show itself. Don't go crazy changing branding and names and colors and all of that stuff. Just try and change what you're talking about or the format that you're delivering. So I'll give you a quick example from one of our clients. One of our clients started to do a podcast where it was him and his friend, and they were talking about their kind of specialty tradesman business. Okay, so they were just doing these hour-long format conversations. But what started to happen is they would start to kind of reduce it into these conversations about life and about football and about whatever. And I had a conversation with this client, and I said, hey, you really need to make it specific on your specialty subject. So it was about plumbing and damp and kind of that kind of thing, that kind of tradesman business. I was like, why don't you create reaction videos where you kind of get like botch jobs up on the internet and look at what people are doing to repair the plastering in their house, and you comment on that. So he took that on board and he created these reaction videos. And that was so much more successful than the content that he launched with. And he kind of then exponentially grew from there. So if for whatever reason the launch isn't what you want, just reflect on it and see how that you can improve later down the line. And obviously, if you're really struggling with content and you do have an audience or, people that are close to you, ask them what they'd like to see. If there's anyone that you want to get involved, if you have guests on your show, ask them, who should I interview next? What would you like to see from the podcast? Get feedback. Obviously, your idea is still, in its kind of infancy stage. You really need to just develop and nurture and grow. And then, you might be onto a hit. So hopefully that's given you the confidence to launch your own podcast. If you have any questions, do get in touch with the agency at Disruptive Media, and we'd be happy to help you along your way. Do like and subscribe and share the podcast, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.